Welcome to our new podcast, Lunch with a Librarian. I'm Christine Cook, a librarian here at Fife Cultural Trust. I want to share my lunch with interesting people, and the libraries in Fife are full of them. People are more than their jobs, and it's nice to get behind a job title to find out about the person behind it. And that's what this podcast is really all about, putting a face and some personality to the people who live and breathe libraries and books of all kinds in Fife. My first guest, or victim, depending on how you look at it, is someone I know very well. Jane Russell is an adult services supervisor and has worked in libraries in Fife for over 28 years. We work in the same library service development team, and she's a wicked sense of humour, a lust for life and its challenges, and is really passionate about all that libraries can do. So I'd like to welcome Jane along to this podcast and just get started with the chat. So Jane, my first question to you is, what's your favourite lunch?
Hello, Christine, and thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
You're quite welcome.
What I would like to say, first of all, is there was a slight erroneous fact in your introduction. I've actually been in library since 1892.
Oh, I forgot that.
Now, regarding my favourite food, that's an easy one. Chicken curry, rice and chips.
I knew you were going to say
I know,
that.
and the reason being, when I was a child back in the day, Vesta brought out chicken curry, and I became instantly obsessed with it, and from that time forward, I love curry.
And it was so bad, but it was so good.
It was so bad, it was so good.
Mm.
It was amazing. And also, what another favourite food of mine is the store pie, also known as the co-op pies with beans on top, which always reminds me of my gran when I was wee.
I had totally forgotten that the co-op was called the store, but that's what I always called it when I was growing up. I totally forgot about that.
It's brilliant. It's so unhealthy, but so delicious.
All the best things are unhealthy and delicious.
I know. When I left school, I went to work in the finance department in the council for approximately 6 years. Mm-hmm. And I hated it.
I can imagine.
Every Sunday night I used to cry at the thought of going in to the building.
And you would have been about 12 at that
I would have
point.
been about 12. I was a child bride, yes, as you know. So anyway, then what happened was I left to have a few adventures for 5 years. I went into sales, I worked in hotels in Pitlochry, I went to work in the NAFI in Edinburgh. I did lots of different, looking back, hilarious things. And then I came back to Dunfermline for personal reasons, and I went for the job as a library assistant in Dunfermline Library. And I was looking on it as a short-term job for 2 years.
How's that working out for you?
So that's been 28 years this month. And it's interesting how I got into libraries because I always loved reading. However, I never saw myself working in the building. Mm-hmm. And it was just been one of these jobs that before you know it, 28 years have flown in. Mm-hmm. So I started off as a library assistant. I did that for a few years, and then I decided I needed new challenges, and I went and got some qualifications at college and applied for a supervisor's job in customer services in Dunfermline. Did that for a few years. Did a secondment for a few months with smart cards, and then I applied for the job as adult services supervisor, and this is where I am at now.
And you're having the best time of your life. You're living your best life in the service development team.
My journey is complete.
No, your journey is not complete.
My journey?
It's not even slightly complete. Okay, so I know that part of your job is to organise the reading group collections that go out to the library reading groups. So you're dealing with masses of books every month, and it's quite a big job. So I'm wondering, do you ever get tired of looking at and working with books?
Absolutely not. No way, Jose. Definitely not. It's absolutely brilliant. I come from a family that were great readers, and we also were surrounded by music and books. And for example, my brother never goes anywhere without a book, including in the shower, apparently.
How the heck
That
does he
is true.
manage that?
Yeah, he's never got his face out a book wherever he goes. So no, I never get fed up with looking at the books, ever.
Fantastic. So what was the last book that you read?
You'll like this one, Christine.
Uh-huh.
There's actually 3 on the go at the moment.
I'm going to guess it was to do with tidying your house to tidy your brain.
Something like that, but not quite.
Okay.
Well, I go through phases. I've not read fiction for a wee while. I'm on to self-help books at the moment, which is quite hilarious. So you'll like this. So I've got them written down because I couldn't remember the authors. The first one, How to Take Charge of Your Life and Become the Person You Want to Be, by Barbara Pease. Secondly, the power to get things done, in brackets, whether you feel like it or not.
That's an important part.
That's an important part, by Steve Levison. And thirdly, which is amazing, is The Miracle Morning, The 6 Habits That Will Change Your Life by Hal Elrod. And I have to say, every single time you read a book like that, you take something away from it. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, you're just a perfect poison.
So really, after all the self-help books, really you're Fife Cultural Trust's guru.
Yes.
Yes.
If you've got a problem, I'll help you, no probs.
Well, you might help if for the cost of a chicken curry, rice and chips.
Well, let's put it this way. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong, and that's how you learn, by your mistakes. So,
Absolutely.
Adventure series books, I actually preferred them to the Famous Five. They were just, swept you away into a different land.
I never liked the Famous Five. I could never identify with them growing up. They were too posh.
Yeah. But also, yes, and quite un-PC now as well.
Oh, yes.
I loved the St. Clair books. The twins at St. and Carlotta the gypsy.
Yes.
Oh, and she had a horse, and I wanted a horse. It was, I loved she's, what a magical gift.
If you could have gone to boarding school,
it would have been St. Clair's. Absolutely.
Yeah.
After that, I moved on as a teenager to the slightly romancy side of things, and Georgette Hare became my obsession. I loved Georgette Hare, all the Regency books.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still love reading some of Georgette Hare books, because you can go back to them, and you always find something that you've missed. You had such a sparkling way writing a book, and it was just brilliant. Absolutely lovely. And as an adult, I would have to say the one that totally sticks in my mind is Shogun by James Clavell.
Classic.
Adventure, romance. Oh, absolutely the most amazing book. And I remember I just couldn't stop reading it when I started it. And then I went on to read the other one, Taipan, and what was the other one? Something
three of
House.
them, wasn't there?
Yeah. It was,
I want to say Bleak House,
no,
but that's not...
No, don't mention that. That's one of the worst ones. That's going to annoy me now.
I can't remember. We'll have to go.
We'll have to
check
look
on the
back,
library catalogue.
And also, before I'd read them, I'd watched the series and the TV. I think it was in the 80s with Richard Chamberlain, and he was so amazingly gorgeous and slim and swashbuckly.
With
his
he was
big
buckling
sword
his
thing.
swashes all over the place.
Absolutely. And he was just amazing. But the books were even better. So
yeah, no, I remember reading them. They were amazing. They just swept you away.
Yeah.
That's what you want a book to do, I suppose, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was great. And after I read it, I was like, I became instantly obsessed with all things
that
Japanese.
Is so unlike you. I'm really surprised to hear you say that.
Well, there you go. That was my love affair with the Japanese.
Okay, so I think I know already what you're going to say to this question, but okay, so what's the worst book you've ever read?
Well, having been part of reading groups for many, many years, you have to read books that you don't particularly want to read, or you think they look rubbish.
Yeah.
However, one has to do what one has to do.
Yeah.
And I would say the one that sticks out is actually one that you chose for the reading group sets. And I started looking at you in a different way after this, Christine, because I thought, if you think that's good, I'm not listening to you again. It was Moby Dick.
You didn't listen to me before.
It was absolutely horrendous.
Did you make it to the end?
No.
No, neither did I.
No, I didn't. It was interminable.
It was.
I also don't like anything with violence or disturbing scenes in it, because I'm a total wimp and I get easily disturbed, and I lie in bed at night and I hide under the covers and things like
Sometimes
that.
Sometimes a book with a disturbing scene in it is almost worse than a film with a disturbing scene in it, because your mind fills in the...
I don't like things like that at all. I like happy things. I like happy things with happy endings.
Okay. Well, in my defence, Moby Dick is considered a classic. I don't agree that it's a classic, but it's considered a classic, so that was why I bought it. But I apologise for my mistake wholeheartedly.
Okay, but to me it falls in the category of Bleak House. After I read Bleak House, I was glad I'd read it, but I'd never go back to it again.
Yeah.
And yet some classics you can go back to and revisit them over and over, like obviously Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. But those, you feel like you're getting a little bit more out of them each time you read them. Moby Dick and Bleak House, it's just a slog to get through, and life's kind of too short for me to want to do that, because there are so many books out there that I want to read. Just because someone says it's a classic, it doesn't mean it's a classic to you or me.
And that's very deep, Christine.
That's a question for another podcast, actually. When is a classic not a classic?
Yes.
When we say it's not a classic, that's when it's not a classic. Okay.
And it's been really successful, and it was actually one of our team, Jennifer Stewart, that came up with the idea, and it's gone down a storm. what happens is we go out as a group for a walk and come back into the library and have a cup of tea, and it's like then we have a book group, and it's all based around a different theme, a book theme every time. So we never run out of subjects to talk about because we've got all the resources in the libraries, and it's just gone down so well. And it's a great social thing. People are meeting new friends. It's a healthy thing, and also they're reading books that they wouldn't normally read. It's great.
It's a really good way of combining the healthy walk, because it's not a big long walk that you go on, is it? It's not like a big slog up a hill or something. It's just a nice, pleasant stretch of the legs. You chat with people, and then you come back to the library and talk about books. It's just a fantastic idea.
It's great, and it's all different levels of walking who come to the group. I mean, some people actually have the rollators. So they're actually pushing the rollators, and we just go at their pace at the back. There's usually a person at the back, a back marker, and if somebody wants to walk a wee bit faster, they can go at the front, and we meet up in the middle so everyone catches up.
Oh, that's
it's
really
brilliant.
Good.
It's really great.
And it started off in just one location, didn't it? And then it's grown and grown and grown.
We've got a few locations now, and we're looking to expand even further afield.
Fantastic.
In Fife, obviously. Yeah, but it's absolutely brilliant. And the other thing that springs to mind is an initiative called Moments in Time, which is very topical at the moment. And it's groups that one of my colleagues and I are doing at the moment. Well, there's actually a couple of other girls involved in it. Fiona, that I'm giving you a special mention because you're doing an absolutely brilliant job. And that's sessions we take for people with dementia. And they come in with their carers, and we do poetry readings. We have memory boxes that we've made up, but the bit they like the best are the songs. Always Go Down a Storm.
It always seems to be the thing that triggers, you lose last with dementia, isn't it? It does trigger and really nice feelings of the past and stuff like that.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant, and it's very uplifting as well because you see you're making a difference.
Yeah.
And somebody might come in all quiet and then they go out with a big smile on their face.
Yeah.
There's one particular gentleman in particular that springs to mind. He came in and he was all quiet, and by the end of it he was singing to me Blue Spanish Eyes.
Oh, that's so lovely.
As he waltzed out the room. It was absolutely brilliant. So that always puts a smile on your face.
That's a really nice thing to be a part of as part of your job. That's really cool.
It is, it's good.
Good.
The absolute best thing about my job is the fact that no 2 days are the same. It's really interesting. You never know quite what's going to happen from one day to the next. And I'm always learning new skills in the job as well.
Yeah.
For example, I'm learning how to use a 3D printer.
Uh-huh.
So it just keeps it...
What genius is teaching you how to do that?
I think it might be Christine. It's you.
Oh, yeah. And digital storytelling as well.
And
the kit that we're using to record this podcast on was bought as part of our digital storytelling project, which we'll probably do another podcast about because it's fantastic. It'd be good to tell people about that. But you have also learned how to do your own digital story, which was a fantastic experience.
That was really good,
yeah.
I definitely want to expand on that.
But we won't tell any more about that because we'll do a different podcast about that.
It's a secret.
We shouldn't know about them all. Good. And we probably shouldn't know about them all because we want to keep a bit of your mystique as well. That's important, I feel. So would you tell us a bit about what you like to do outside of work and a bit about your favourite places that you like to be?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that my name is Jane and I'm a total wimp.
Okay, I don't agree, but okay.
I am a total wimp. However, I always push myself outside my comfort zone, which I thought was quite normal, but not everybody seems to do that for some bizarre reason. So I get myself into all these situations that make fantastic stories afterwards, and I have everyone rolling about on the floor, but I don't know why, because they weren't funny at the time, but they always are afterwards. So I'm scared of heights, for example, and I've jumped out an aeroplane. I'd never do that again. Hated it, but I did it.
But you did it.
I did it. The latest thing is I was in the Outer Hebrides a couple of weeks ago and ended up a hill, the highest hill in the Hebrides. Uh-huh. And the wind was howling and the snow was at the top. And I was puffing and panting like an old cart horse with my sticks. And I got to the top and I froze and I got cramp in my leg I said, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And the person I was with, who shall not be named, says, no, Jane, you're not going to die, and got me down safely. But these are the sort of things I do quite a bit. And then another day I got stuck in a peat bog up to my knee and I thought, I'm going to die this time. I didn't. And I've also recently rediscovered cycling, which is an absolute joy. But I fell off a year past New Year and cracked a couple of ribs. But I got back on it. That was pretty hairy. And
coming down Schiehallion on your coccyx as well. That was
a bad one.
Yes, that was quite bad.
I was out of action for. Actually, it's only recently I've been able to sit down after that. That was horrible.
Yeah. Adventures aren't without risk, but you kind of throw yourself into them anyway.
Well, that's what we think, but other people think I am a total wimp. For example, when I was younger, my brother took me skiing and I took a freaky up the hill as usual. And I said, I'm not coming down to the snow melts. And he went away and left me. I never let him forget that one. And this nice Englishman came along and he said, I'll help you down.
You weren't going to come down until the snow melts?
No, I wasn't. I was so scared. I was shaking and everything and screeching. You don't care about making a fool out of yourself, though, when you're in the middle of the trauma.
That's very true. That's very true. So, Outer Hebrides, would you say that is one of your favourite places? Would you go back? Do you ever go back to places that you visited? Or do you just move on to somewhere new?
I very rarely go back to places I've been before, but there's something really special about the Scottish Islands. They're absolutely stunning, and if you haven't been, I would highly recommend you go. Each one has its own individual charm. There's similarities with some of them, but they're all individual. Yeah. They're just absolutely stunning. And I'm always amazed at the amount of people from Scotland who haven't been to the islands. Yeah. It's on your doorstep. You get the Calmac ferry. It's very slick. It's much better going on a bike, though, because it's a lot more of an adventure. But no, I don't have a favourite one. They're all lovely.
I think you're going to be inspiring lots of people to take up their bikes and...
Do you think so, Christine?
Yeah, take up their bikes and explore the hills.
Yeah,
alternatively. As long as they don't come down them on their coccyx.
Yeah, when they hear about cracked ribs and things.
And coccyx, you're probably actually taking the shine off it for a lot of people. You've probably spoiled the outdoors for everyone listening today, so I hope you're happy. Is it?
No, but I was so anxious about this, Christine. You've no idea. I wasn't really anyway. I know.
Liar.
No, I don't like that, but you have to take it out. No, sorry, I've totally ruined it now.
Absolutely not. No, we're keeping this in. We're keeping this in. So I think next time what we might well do is we're going to do other podcasts talking to other people in the Trust who work in libraries, because we want to show a bit of the huge personalities that we've got working in libraries. But I think we should also do this podcast again where you get to ask me questions.
Yes, and you will see the tip of Christine's iceberg, which I wasn't going to say, but I've said it now.
You have said it now, and I'm really unhappy that you have, but it's out there now, so that's good.
We've crossed the Rubicon, we can't
You've
go back.
Crossed the Rubicon, yes. So I think we should do other podcasts as well where we're talking about classic literature and stuff and what makes a classic and things like that.
Yeah,
I think we could have good fun with this. So I hope that we've entertained you in some way. So keep tuning in, and there'll be more podcasts coming. But if Jane is involved, I can't guarantee what the subject will be about and if we'll stick to the subject that we've chosen. But it's going to be good fun regardless. So happy reading and happy lunching.